Welcome, welcome, business owning moms, to my coveted maternity leave planning roadmap. You guys are doing so great because if you've been listening along, you know that I've been doing a takeover of the Growing Pains podcast with my maternity leave roadmap. It is literally the 30-step process to planning a self employed maternity leave. We are over here, and I'm honestly giving you a big old high five because we are on number 12. So, the 12th installment of the maternity leave roadmap series. And honestly, what we're going to talk about today is delegation. And it's not going to be the deep dive, here's how to delegate and here's what to do. It's really about giving yourself permission to delegate. So we talked a bunch about like the headspace of getting stuff off your calendar. We talked about metrics. And really what I want to think through is how to pass the baton because I think a lot of folks who've delegated in the past, they might not actually have gone through the full process of delegation. So much so that they feel like, oh, I've tried to give somebody my content before and it falls flat, or I've tried to delegate my email in the past and it's fallen flat and I've ended up taking it back on. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about, passing the baton truly, because there's a couple of things that are true over the years that I've supported business owners in delegating. The first thing is that believing that nobody can do it the way that you do it is holding you back. I think when we go to delegate something, we oftentimes want people to do it exactly the way that we do it. And they are not us. They can't do it exactly the way that we do it. They can do certain elements to the standard in which we want them, which is totally important. And I'll talk about that here in a second. But I think fundamentally understanding that when you delegate something to somebody, we need to believe that either they can do it better than we can do it, or they're going to do it differently. And as long as it's getting done, that's okay. I think about that. For example, my husband, Steve, he is an excellent support. He is honestly my best friend. The kids and him have this fantastic bond. And we really do split a lot 50-50. I'm very, very fortunate. And something that really, really irritated me when we were first married was that he wouldn't put the dishes back the way that I put them back. Such a silly small thing. And I remember griping about this briefly to my sister-in-law. I was like, because we only moved in together after we had been married. And she was like, hey, early marriage, how's this going? I remember this years ago. So we've been married 10 years. And she was like, asking me all these questions. And I was like, man, I just really wish you would put the dishes back like where I put them. Like, how does he not know where they go? And as we got farther and farther along inside of our marriage and we then became parents and we're managing multiple different things on multiple different fronts, I was like, what does it matter if he's putting it back the way that I think it should be put back? If he wants to put it back that way, then why don't I just decide that it doesn't super matter where the stuff goes as long as it's in the same consistent spot that he feels like it's best? And so that little tiny shift of it doesn't matter, even the kids, like I think that that's a tough piece for parents is the differences in handling things between mom and dad. And oftentimes the kids will favor the way that mom does it. And then mom looks at dad like, hey, why don't you just do it the way that I do it? But oftentimes what we'll say to the kids is like, hey, mommy does it that way, but daddy doesn't do it that way. Or hey, daddy does it that way, but mommy doesn't do it that way. I mean, it's really great, I think, for like individualizing us and giving permission to be like, hey, you don't actually have to, have a death grip over every single thing inside of the home. I think it releases me too from like a lot of the challenges of that mental load and having the kids come to me for everything. I mean, sometimes they prefer the way Steve does it, and sometimes they prefer the way that I do it. And I think it also shows that confidence in our partner, in this case, right, your teammate, that you actually believe that they can do it. And even if it is their own way, even if they need to figure it out, giving them the space to be able to do that is really, really important. So there's three key things that you'll want to do. First is hold a discussion meeting. So if you haven't yet announced to your team that you are pregnant after putting your plan together and all the things, you'll want to do that to your full team if you are working with folks. You'll hold a meeting to address particularly what you want certain people to take over inside of the business. Or if you're looking to bring on a contractor, I did that with my first maternity leave. I had a strategic partner that came in. I paid her on a contract basis, and she was the one that supported my client projects through those initial couple of weeks. I didn't really take a maternity leave in the first one, but if you guys know my story, you know a little bit about that. but hold a meeting to discuss that transition and be like, hey, listen, I think you could do X, Y, and Z. And then give them the non negotiables. Be like, hey, listen, the dishes need to be put away, but it doesn't super matter where they go as long as it's consistent. And if you want to reinvent how that system works, totally great with me. I think having them understand the non negotiables of the thing that you're giving them, but also giving them permission to be creative and use their best effort and best guess to, take it the last 20% of the way. I think that's great. And honestly, it creates more ownership for them over the process. I did this with Lauren in my team for my second maternity leave. And it worked so well. I was managing clients the way I was managing clients. And then I said, hey, listen, as long as these 8 things happen, you can do this however you want. And she's come to me with incredible suggestions, incredible ownership over the entire process. I mean, she just manages everything when it comes to our clients over at Operations Agency. So it's so wonderful. Additionally, is adding the metrics in. So we talked a lot about metrics. You need 2 at the very least for every single teammate, a leading indicator and a lagging indicator. Let them know, hey, listen, I'd love you to take this over. I believe that you can do it. These are the non negotiables, and here's how we're going to measure success, me and you. And then encourage open communication. So I think the communication path needs to be, you let them know, you tell them what numbers they're going to track, you give them some time to pilot. So you can say, hey, look, this is how I do it, or I need to train you a little bit. Then by this date, you're going to take this over and do it before you go out on maternity leave. It's going to be so important both for you and the person that you're delegating this stuff to, truly, to have a runway in which you can give it to them. And then they can actually be the doer, and you can be the supportive coach that if they have questions, if they want to bounce anything off of you, if you have any specific feedback, you can actually kind of go through that process. It'll also instill a ton of confidence when you go out. You're not going to be thinking in the back of your mind, like, oh, did this person do that thing? Or I wonder if they're totally confident, or I wonder if they have any questions. We do not want the first week that someone takes something over the week before you have your baby. There's no way that that is in any way going to help your nervous system. And my job is to make sure that you feel like the business stuff is taken care of, because motherhood's hard enough. Like, you can just be there and be able to take everything that comes into your world from baby and postpartum and all the stuff, because we all know it's a potpourri of emotions. So schedule a team meeting this week. If you don't currently have like a plan for your tasks, we discussed that earlier in the series, go back, listen to the episode, make sure that you've got an understanding of like what needs to come off of your plate, what is going to be delegated to a person, what's going to be automated. And then that way you feel like you can have some of these conversations with your team confidently to make sure that they're taking things over. If you want the full series and all of the templates, go to mastermaternityleave.com/roadmap. I've got templates galore. I've got things that you can sink your teeth into, tangible examples, things like that to be able to deploy with your team. And I'm just so grateful that you've joined me here on the show. Talk to you soon.